proposes new taxes, taking the capital gains tax rate on the wealthy, of course, from 15% now to 28%. He now has a second estate tax on the wealthy, including a step-up basis that's not allowed, plus an estate tax. That's double taxation of estates. I'm not going to get into that right now, but if your dad bought a house for $10,000, as the Americans for Tax Reform point out, he bought a house for $10,000, he dies and leaves it to you. When he dies, your basis for capital gains is what it was when he died, not when he bought it. So if you get the house and you sell it for 120, and when he died it was 100,000, not 10,000, your capital gains tax is 20,000. In the president's budget, he goes all the way back to what the price was when your dad bought it, which is okay if you didn't have an estate tax. I have no problem with that. But now you've got an estate tax. So if the dad buys the house at 10,000, right, and he leaves it to you, you're going to pay, the estate is going to pay a tax on the value of that house. Plus, when you sell the house, you're going to have another capital gains tax. That's yet another example of the class warfare that is part and parcel of this administration, and it simply deprives the country of capital. So why on earth would I save my estate to die? I'll spend the money. Well, if you spend the money, guess what? There's no capital formation, no savings with which to fund corporate America. Interest rates will eventually go up. So you've got a real problem here. But the president's budget, in its zeal to punish big corporations and subsidize anybody who's on a means-tested program, a new food safety agency doing for the grocery bill what Dodd-Frank has done for credit, $156 billion. More money for free community college. We talked about that the last time, $74 billion. Health and Human Services price controls on cutting-edge drugs, which means you're going to tell big corporate, big pharmaceutical, you're not going to be able to charge what you want. You might like that, but guess what happens when people can't make a profit? They don't produce. Homeland Security, $50 billion. Another $8.5 million there. HUD vouchers, another $50 billion. It just keeps going on and on and on. $1 billion in Interior. State Department gets another $64 billion. And the Veterans Administration gets another $60 billion to improve medical care, even though the president's own bipartisan commission came out with a report this week saying the veterans, the VA ought to do away with TRICARE. The Pentagon's medical system, primary health care system, TRICARE, is bloated, inefficient, and bankrupting the Pentagon. But the president now wants to expand the status quo. And as I say, in this never-ending zeal to go after profits and wealth and corporate America, the president's budget proposes to tax foreign profits of America's domestic corporations. So here in Minnesota, if you've got companies like Medtronic, 3M, St. Jude, General Mills, and they open a factory in France, in Ireland, in Germany, and they make money overseas selling their product, that money is not taxed until it comes back to America. The president wants to tax it now. He wants a 14% tax on that. Now, here are a couple of interesting nuances here. What people like Keith Ellison, the uber left-wing Marxist representing Minneapolis, where else, they say that tax isn't high enough. They say that it's outrageous because corporations are tax dodgers by keeping their foreign profits overseas. So we're going to go to another country and we're going to tax money that's earned in another country. What do you think other countries are going to do? But more importantly, we are the only country to do this. Right now, if you are a German company and you locate in another country that has no tax and you bring those profits back to Germany, you don't incur a tax. Under current law in America, if you have a foreign profit in another country with zero corporate income tax, and you bring that money back to America, you have to pay 35% top rate on those profits. Why? Now, this is crucial here. People say, well, why shouldn't you? It's corporation's a corporation, because the essence of good tax policy is a user fee. That is to say, what you do is if you earn money in Kansas, and you're using the roads in Kansas, the police service in Kansas, the fire department in Kansas, the schools to some degree in Kansas, why, you should pay for those. But all of the foreign profits earned in Germany are not using American roads, not using American schools, not using American police and fire. So why should they be taxed for that? The foreign profits in Germany, Ireland, France, you name it, did not cost the American government one penny, and yet they want to tax it. That's why, as I say, if you are a foreign company and you earn profits in America and you bring it back, they don't tax them, but we do. So instead of eliminating this, the president wants to expand corporate taxes. Now, what it's going to mean is a massive corporate tax bill for America's corporations, which certainly you may say, well, they deserve it. But let me ask you this. I'm not saying all American or all corporations will expand if they make larger profits. Many of them have not. They've simply been buying back their shares, stockpiling cash reserves because they're paralyzed by Obamacare, Dodd-Frank, by the punitive outlook of this administration. But if you had to bet, is a corporation more likely to expand if it has larger profits or smaller after-tax profits? Can't guarantee either one, but chances are, if you got no profit, no after-tax profit, I doubt if you're going to expand and hire people. If you've got a large after-tax profit, you may or you may not, but certainly that's a prerequisite to expansion. And dividends and share buybacks, all good for grandma's pension fund. So the president's budget is simply more of the same, full of tax hikes, full of taxes on the wealthy, as though those people didn't contribute when they produced something. You know, understand this about taxation. And I drive liberals crazy when I say this. But taxation, if it is not used for public goods, is theft. A tax basically a tax that you pay for a government service you use is a legitimate tax. A tax that you pay in return for nothing is theft. And so when we tell certain people in America, the bottom half, that they don't have to pay anything, and we tell the top 20%, the top 10%, for instance, they have to pay 70% of all income taxes collected, we are engaged in a massive redistribution of wealth, which is merely a euphemism for theft. I have no problem paying a tax for police, fire, roads, the items I use. I have a great problem when the government comes in, takes money that belongs to me and my family, and gives it to other people to whom it does not belong for nothing in return. In fact, if you did that on the street, they'd put you in jail. If the government does it, they call it compassion. That is a serious ethical crisis in American tax policy. So there you have it on the president's budget. I also want